Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So welcome to all devotees who have joined for the weekly Vrinda meet at 6 p.m. Saturday. So we welcome all devotees very heartily for this meeting. Some have joined, few others will be joining, but we'll be starting soon. So again, as every week we will have again a very wonderful session of the ongoing series of Bhakti Anubhav by His Grace Samat Krishna Prabhu. So let's welcome His Grace Samat Krishna Prabhu by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Let us begin with some short kirtan. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Made Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namam everybody Krishna Padaya
Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Vimale
Made Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashatyadesha Tarine Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashatyadeshadarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nanda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 हरे हरे हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
कृष्णा
Krishna,
कृष्णा
Krishna
कृष्णा
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
हरे हरे
Hare
राम
Hare
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
राम राम
Rama
हरे
Hare
हरे हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम राम
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna,
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 Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare
Hare
हरे
Rama,
राम राम
Rama
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare
हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे हरे
Hare
कृष्णा हरे
Hare
कृष्णा कृष्णा
Krishna,
कृष्णा
Krishna,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
राम
Rama,
राम
Rama
राम
Rama,
हरे
Hare
हरे
Hare.
जया प्रभुपदा 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 जया
Jaya
प्रभुपदा
Prabhupada,
प्रभुपदा
Prabhupada,
प्रभुपदा
Prabhupada,
जया
Jai Prabhupada.
हृदय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल निताई
Nitai
गौर
Gaura
हरि
Hari
बोल
Bol,
हरि
Hari
बोल
Bol,
Hare
Hari
बोल निताई
Bol,
गौर
Gaura
हरि
Hari
बोल
Bol.
कलयुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तनम की
Jai.
Jai.
हरे कृष्ण मज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले
Swayam
स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरोन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे
निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे मोहावदन्याय कृष्ण
नाम्ने
नाम्ने
गौरत्वे
गौरत्विषे
नमः
नमः
हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो
दीनबन्धो
दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां
पावने
पावने
वैष्णवे
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो
नमः।
वांश्च कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद
भक्तवृंद
हरे
हरे
कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा
कृष्णा
कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे हरे हरे
हरे
राम
राम हरे
हरे
राम
राम राम राम हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम
ओम नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
ओम
ओम
नमो
नमो भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय
वासुदेवाय
नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. So we'll recite one verse. Please try to repeat after me. कृष्ण भक्ति रस भावितामति
कृष्ण भक्ति रस भावितामति
प्रियतामपि कुतोऽपि लभ्यते
प्रियतामपि
प्रियतामपि कुतो
कुतोऽपि
य लभ्यते
तत्र लौल्यम् अपि मूल्यमे. Hare Krishna. Audible?
Yes, Prabhuji, it's audible, but
Hare
little
Krishna.
bit breaking. It is little bit breaking, the
Yeah.
voice.
We are reciting the verse. Tatra laulyam मूल्यमेकलम्
तत्र लौल्यं मूल्यलेखनं
जन्मकोटि सुकृत न लभ्यते.
जन्मकोटि
सुकृत
सुकृतं
न लभ्यते.
लभ्यते.
Yeah. So this particular verse we just now recited is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is also called as the Nectar of Devotion, written by Rupa Goswami. And here one very important word is used, which is the subject matter of our discussion today. Yeah. So what is that verse? So this is called as Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati. So Krishna Bhakti Ras, that is the most important words here. Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyatam api kutobi labhyate. That somebody who is getting this Krishna Bhakti Rasa, whose intelligence or mati means the intelligence, if it is becoming Krishna Rasa Bhavita, Krishna Rasa Bhavita means Krishna conscious, or one is able to taste Bhakti Ras. Kriyatam api kutobi labhyate. Such a platform of attainment of Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita cannot be attained by performance of any amount of any other type of activities like jnana, karma, yoga, philosophical speculation, study of scriptures, visiting of holy places, taking bath in holy rivers, doing a lot of vratas, tapasya. No matter what you do, this Krishna Bhakti Ras cannot be attained. Kriyatam api kutopi lapyate. You cannot attain it. The only prize to attain this Krishna Bhakti Ras and such intelligence is Tatra Lolyam Mulyam Ekalam, which means the only prize to attain it is intense greed to attain it. Lolyam. Lolyam means greed. Tatra Lolyam Mulyam. Mulyam means इसका मूल्य, इसका मोल कितना है. बोलते ना भाई इसका क्या क्या मोल है यार, इसका कितना मूल्य है. हाँ, हिंदी में लिखा था ना मूल्य 2 रुपए. तो वैसे ही इस कृष्ण भक्ति रस भाविता मति, ये इंटेलिजेंस surcharged with Krishna Bhakti. To get such an intelligence surcharged with Krishna Bhakti, which is also called as transcendentally inspired intelligence, TII. Now, in the modern world, people only know IIT. But here, Rupa Goswami is giving us information of TII. TII is transcendentally inspired intelligence. An intelligence looking for transcendental knowledge or inclined towards transcendental realization, called transcendentally inspired intelligence, TII. So such intelligence to get is only one prize, which is called greed. Tatra lolyam mulyam ekalam. Otherwise, even if a person perform all the other activities which I told in the beginning, for many, many lifetimes together, it is not possible to attain that platform of Krishna Bhakti. Janmo koti sukritana labhyate. Even after taking many births, one cannot get that. So it's a very, very beautiful verse. And why we recited this verse? Because this particular verse is the subject matter of our today's discussion. Because we are going to discuss on the Rasa Tattva today. On the concept of Rasa. So once again, I heartily welcome all of you. Very happy to see many devotees joining here. So we have Santosh Prabhu, Vamshi Prabhu, Jai Krishna Prabhu, Jitendra Prabhu, and our 2 young stars, Satish and Santosh Prabhu, and their beautiful faces, smiling, cheerful. Satish is looking very smart now as he's moving on to 11th standard. You have to be careful of girls, Satish Prabhu, huh? Okay. Then we have Praveen Prabhu, we have Tomesh Prabhu, Venkatesh Prabhu, Yashwant Prabhu, Pankaj Prabhu, Aman Prabhu is also there, Anil Prabhu, Mahesh Prabhu, Shivam Prabhu is also there. Very bold. Only we are able to see only some beautiful faces. Not all beautiful faces are visible. So if devotees are kind upon us, they will show us their moon-like faces. So interaction becomes more enlivened. Some rasa will be there. Okay. So let's quickly revise what we studied last time in our session, and then we will move ahead. Okay. So we are discussing only 4 questions here: what, why, who, and how in relation to bhakti. And in order to properly understand bhakti, we have to first of all discuss why. Correct? Because when the why is very clear, then you will be able to move forward. So, why is the need to love Krishna? What is the need to love Krishna? So, in the last session, that's what we were discussing. So, we told you about loving Krishna is like watering the root of a tree. When you water the root of a tree, everything, all the branches and the twigs and the leaf gets watered. And we quoted this verse, Sarva Yonishu Kontya, that because Krishna, the seed-giving father, by satisfying Krishna, all living entities get satisfied. If you remember, last time we sang a song also in Hindi. Jagat ke rang kya dekhu, tera didar kafi hai. Karu main pyar kis kis se, karu main pyar kis kis se, tera ek pyar kafi. Remember? So this we sang last time to tell that we only need to love Krishna in this world. And if we love Krishna, we will love everyone. And we gave you example of, people who love humanity and altruism and many other people, but they don't love Krishna, their love is not complete because they may love humanity, but they will kill animals. They will still eat meat. They will kill chicken, goats, and different types of animals like that. So people are not, their love is not complete without loving Krishna. This we discussed last time. And then we move forward where we discuss the difference between genuine love and fake love. And this is one more reason we discuss why we need to love Krishna. We need to love Krishna because we were looking for genuine love, and genuine love we can only find in Krishna. And we gave you many examples of fake and selfish love, like some are mentioned here, like a millionaire's love for a Hollywood actress. You know that Hollywood actress and the millionaire both were, uh, they were, you know, keeping bulldozers. Bulldozer means that the bodyguards to protect from each other, although they married initially, but then for the selfish motives. And selfish love means love for the pocket, love for the skin. We showed you many examples of, auto wala, then air hostesses. So love in this world is fake love. But why we need to love Krishna, or why we need to practice bhakti? Because love is our need and we are looking for genuine love. And then we move forward to discuss what is genuine love. So very greatly, elaborately through many slides, we discussed last time many characteristics and qualities of genuine love. Like genuine love means service, means the love should be expressed in the form of service, not just feelings. We should be doing something for Krishna, not just saying that, oh, I have love for Krishna. No. And that service should be voluntary, it should not be forced. And genuine love means it is selfless, not selfish. It involves sacrifice and pain without reservation. For each of this, we gave you many examples from the pastimes of the Lord. It is free from unrealistic expectations. And genuine love means respecting and valuing individuality. It is unconditional in all situations, tolerance and forgiveness, security, shelter, and pleasure. So many things we told you last time about what is genuine love and what is fake love. So till now we have discussed two reasons why we need to love Krishna. Till now we have discussed two reasons why we have to need to love Krishna. So this why is going to continue now. What was the first reason? Because without loving Krishna, I cannot love everybody. My love for everybody will only be fulfilled if I love Krishna, because Krishna is like the root of the tree or like the stomach in the body. By putting food, we will to love everyone. And because we want to love everyone, we want to expand our love. That is why we need to love Krishna. That was the first reason. Second reason why we need to love Krishna, because we all are looking for genuine love for ourselves, and other people are also expecting genuine love from us. So we will be able to give that genuine love to others only when we learn to love Krishna. So there is a second reason why we need to learn to love Krishna. Correct? And then I showed you the difference between love and lust. This shloka we quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Atmendriya priti vancha tari balikam, Krishnendriya priti iksha dhare premanam. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama or lust, but the desire to please senses of Krishna is prema. Correct? So with this, we ended our last discussion. Yeah. So now we will move on to discuss the concept of rasa. So you will see here. So what is this concept of rasa and why we are discussing it? So the understanding of rasa tattva is the third reason why we need to love Krishna, or why we need to practice bhakti. Right? Why we need to practice bhakti. So we'll discuss it one by one and you will understand what is this rasa. And once you understand what is rasa, it will become very clear why we need to practice bhakti. Okay. So as it's coming, I will request one of you to kindly read it. Okay. Yeah. Somebody can kindly read it. What is there displayed on the screen?
Literally, rasa means juice. Contextually, it means mellow. Mellow refers to the relishable sweet taste of a fruit, a taste contained in its juice. Example, taste of the mango juice. Relationships are comparable to fruits. The pleasure we taste in these relationships is the juice, mellow, the rasa.
Yeah. So now let me explain you. That will become very easy for you to understand this. So what they are trying to say, the word rasa. Now, those of you are from Hindi background or even in other languages also, rasa is a very common word, or rasa in Sanskrit, or in simple Hindi language it's called ras. So ras means juice. अरे गन्ने का जूस, आम का जूस, pineapple juice, संतरा juice, मौसमी juice, so many juices we have tasted in this world. Again, in Hindi we say ganne ka ras. Sometimes you walk on the road, one shop is there highlighting, ganne ka just juice, full glass, 5 rupees. Sometimes you try to tell, na? So ras. So rasa or ras means the same thing. And so literally the word rasa literally means juice, but contextually means when we are discussing it in a concept, it means mellow. Now, what is the difference between juice and mellow? The difference is the taste of the juice is called as mellow. So, for example, when I say ganne ka ras, so ganne ka ras, मैं बोल रहा हूं, I am saying, but actual meaning of ras means the taste of the juice of sugarcane. So here the word rasa contextually means taste or mellow or flavor. Because my dear friend, this word rasa is a Sanskrit word and there is not a very exact English equivalent for this word rasa. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur translated the word rasa into mellow, because mellow, which means the taste in a juice of a fruit, is the closest word we can give for something closer to rasa. But rasa is actually a Sanskrit word and there's no English equivalent to it. And that's why the example here given is the taste of a mango juice or any fruit you can put like that. So as you can see the definition of mellow also, mellow refers to the relatively sweet taste of a fruit, a taste contained in its juice. So inside the juice, the taste which is contained, that's called mellow, and mellow is the closest English equivalent for rasa. Correct? Now I will like to, now after understanding this much, now please focus your attention on the last statement of this slide, which is talking about, this is where this rasa is going to make sense to us. What it is saying, relationships are comparable to fruits, and the pleasure we taste in these relationships is the juice or mellow, the rasa. Now let me explain what it means. It means that, you see, relationship is saying relationship are compared to different fruits. So say for example, we have different fruits. We have mango, we have guava, we have pineapple, we have orange, we have mosami. So different fruits have different taste, different mellows, different rasa. Correct? So there are different types of fruit. So there are some fruits which we like mango. Mango is liked by everyone. Why? Because the taste of mango is very sweet. Some people like pineapple, some people like oranges, some people like grapes. So different types of fruits have different types of taste. And based on our liking of this taste, we choose a particular kind of fruit. Correct? Like that. And what motivates us to eat that fruit? The taste contained in that fruit is the motivation factor for us to eat that fruit. Suppose if the mango is there, but if the mango is not going to give any taste, then it's the mango is not very palatable. Like nowadays in the modern times, you see that apples, very reddish, bright, chamakdar apples, red color with a sticker also, and it is displayed on the shops, and you take it big, red, chamakdar, but you try to bite it, it's like eating plastic, chaba. But no juice, no taste, no rasa. Is it not? It's like cheating. So what motivates us to eat a particular fruit is the taste in that fruit. Like when we see a mango, so we immediately think of the mango juice and we immediately think of the taste of the mango juice. And that taste of the mango juice, the thought of the taste of the mango juice motivates us, becomes the impetus to, yes, eat the mango. Correct? Similarly, my dear friends, relationships in this world are compared to different types of fruits. Think about it in your life. In your life, you have some relationship with few people in which the relationships are very sweet. Every time you have some exchanges in that relationship, you experience very sweetness. Your heart feels very warmth. You feel very satisfied. You feel happy. And in this world, there are some people with whom your relationship is little neutral. You are in your own world, they are in their own world. Correct? You have nothing to give and take. And with some people, your relationship is like Kerala juice. Is it not? The moment you see them, you make a bad face. Why this person, early morning he showed his face to me. हाँ, पूरा दिन खराब कर दिया इसने. सत्यानाश. Right? Some people when you meet, you experience that kind of thing also. So you will find that why relationships are compared to different types of fruits. It is because just like in different types of fruits, you experience different types of juices. Similarly, in different types of relationship, you experience different types of juice. You experience different type of juice. And that juice or that mellow or that rasa which you experience in a particular relationship becomes the motivating factor for you to go forward in that relationship or to perform activities in that relationship or to render service in that relationship. How many of you are clear with what I'm speaking current till now? Because I don't want it to go over above the head. If you are clear with what I've spoken till now, then only I'll move ahead. Otherwise, if any question you ask now only. Is that clear what I'm speaking till now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. So rasa means juice. More importantly, means mellow. Mellow means the taste inside the juice of a fruit. That's called rasa or mellow, rasa. Now, relationships are also compared to fruits. Just like different fruits have different juices and different taste, different rasas. Similarly, different relationships in this world also have different taste, different juice, different rasas. Now, why we are talking about relationships here? Why we are talking about relationships here? That will become clear in this particular slide, which you are seeing here. So rasa, the force behind relationship. So I already explained you just now that the taste contained in the juice of the fruit is a motivating factor for you to eat the fruit. Similarly, the juice or the pleasure or the taste you derive in a particular relationship is the motivating factor for you to go forward in that relationship. Now, yeah, somebody can kindly read this.
Activities are always centered around relationships. The force that attracts us to a certain relationship is the taste we enjoy in that relationship. The taste is called as rasa. Example, the taste of a fruit is what attracts us to eat it.
Yeah, now all of you can pay your attention here on the first line, which is the activities are always centered around relationships. So why relationships are coming in the picture in relation to rasa? Why? Because you see, my dear friend, any activity we do in this world, it is always centered around relationships only. Think in your life, you will never find either in your life or in the life of anybody else that they do any activity without reference to any relationship. Take for example a mother cooking at home for her family. She is cooking for her family, and in that activity, she is performing the activity of cooking because she has a relationship with the family. The father is earning money for the family because he has a relationship with the family. He is not earning money for the neighbor. He is earning money for you. Why? Because he has a relationship. Similarly, most of you are working. So you are working to earn your livelihood so that you can provide for your families, for your parents' needs, like that. So wherever activities comes, there is always relationships involved in that. Think about an husband and wife relationship, children and parents relationship, Even a prime minister is performing a lot of activities because he considers that my relationship with this country and the citizens of this country is I am their leader, I am their prime minister, and hence I will serve them, and that's why. So the activities are always centered on relationship, and relationships, not only family, it can be any kind of relationship, like business relationship. For example, a shopkeeper selling a particular commodity and making a profit. So what kind of relationship he has with you? He has a business relationship, correct? So the point is, either it is business relationship, company relationship, family relationship, political relationship, any relationship, wherever you will find activities happening, any activity happening, the source behind it is relationship only. Without a sense of relationship or relating to something, there cannot be any activity. So therefore, my dear friends, the concept of rasa becomes very prominent here, that what motivates a person to get into a particular relationship, or when I say relationship, which means a particular activity, what motivates a businessman to do the activities of business? It is the rasa which is deriving from the business, the profit rasa. What is the rasa which a mother is deriving by cooking for the family? What is the pleasure which the mother is deriving by cooking for the family? It is the pleasure of that relationship, that rasa she is cooking for. So activities, whatever activities in this world, they are centered on relationship, and people get into relationship because through that relationship, through the activities in that relationship, people try to experience rasa, taste, mellow, pleasure, happiness. Is that becoming clear? So until and unless there is an impetus of happiness, taste, mellow, rasa, we cannot do any activity in this world, my dear friends. Any activity. Any single activity we do in this world is centered around, we are always looking for that sense of pleasure, that sense of taste, that rasa. Like that. Now, here Prabhupada gives two very simple examples for us to understand. Yes, somebody can please read this statement. This is the example which Prabhupada is showing here. Yes, anybody can kindly read.
Driven by affection for his wife and children, a family man works day and night. A philanthropist works in the same way for the love of the greater family, and a nationalist for the cause of his country and countrymen. That force which drives the philanthropist, the householder, and the nationalist is called rasa, or a kind of mellow relationship whose taste is very sweet.
Yeah. So you see, Prabhupada gave three examples. A family man working for his wife and children, driven by affection. So that affection is giving him some taste. Similarly, a philanthropist working for the cause of the larger family, greater family, the whole humanity, and a nationalist working for the country. Three examples. So all these people, what is the motivating force driving them? It is the rasa, the taste which they are experiencing in this relationship, in these activities, and this taste is very sweet. It is very subtle. It is something which is felt inside, within, but that is the motivating factor here. Like this. Now, after understanding what is rasa, till now we have just discussed what is rasa in general. Now, after understanding this, now you understand there are two types of rasa. So as you can see here, there are two types of rasa. What are they? The first one is called as mundane rasa. Mundane means ordinary, material, temporary rasa. And the taste enjoyed by sense gratification is called mundane rasa. So rasa means taste, and what kind of taste it is? It is mundane, which means the taste, the rasa which we derive in sense gratification. And the second rasa, which is very important for us, is the bhakti rasa. which means the taste relished in devotional service to Krishna. So now we are going to analyze these two rasas, analyze it, compare it, contrast it, and understand what is this mundane and bhakti rasa and which is better. And once we very clearly understand which one is better, what is bhakti rasa, how bhakti rasa is better, then it will give us the third reason why to practice bhakti or why bhakti is to be practiced. Correct? Like that. So, yeah. So, bhakti rasa, mundane rasa, which is better? What do you feel, my dear friends? If I ask you a question, what you will say? Bhakti rasa is better or mundane rasa is better? Let us see what our friends has to say. I know many of you will tell, अरे प्रभु जी के सामने झूठ नहीं बोलना चाहिए, प्रभु जी के सामने सच नहीं बोलना चाहिए. बोल दो प्रभु जी भक्ति रसा अच्छा है प्रभु जी. No, not like this. We are going to understand which one is better. Yeah. So, yeah, please read this paragraph. Which is the better taste? So, this is the paragraph from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Srila Prabhupada is writing here. Yeah, I have paraphrased. Yeah, somebody can read. Somebody who has not read till now. Everybody sometimes, every different person can read.
Bhakti rasa is the incalculably
You can also
superior
read a
taste.
title. Title also you should read every time.
Which is a better taste. Bhakti rasa is the incalculably superior taste. Not only is it superior to sense gratification, it is limitlessly superior even to the bliss of spiritual emancipation. It is impossible for us to fully understand the infinite happiness released in bhakti because it is beyond the realm of anything we can experience in our finite existence. Srila Prabhupada, however, gives us the glimpse of bhakti rasa by comparing it to something we are quite familiar with, mundane rasa.
Yeah. So, what this paragraph is saying, my dear friend, that out of mundane rasa and bhakti rasa, there is no doubt that bhakti rasa is a superior taste. You see, my dear friends, we are only looking for one thing in life we have already discussed, which is taste. Swad. है कि नहीं? अच्छा स्वाद चाहिए, बुरा स्वाद चाहिए. We need अच्छा स्वाद, higher taste. The better the taste, the better it is. The process of bhakti is not like the Mayavadi process where they say, don't do anything, just eat one carrot a day, stand upside down, shanti, 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 give up this, give up that. No, bhakti is a very natural process. And naturally we want to be happy, naturally we want to enjoy. So, to enjoy, that is already discussed, that is already said. Yes, to enjoy is our birthright. To enjoy and to be happy is our constitutional position. Now we only have to discuss which is a better enjoyment, which is a better taste. It is mundane rasa of sense gratification or the devotional service rasa, which is bhakti rasa. So here, Rupa Goswami is saying that bhakti rasa is an incalculably superior taste. So there are, different types of pleasure. Sense gratification or pleasure of this world is technically called as Jadananda. Jad means matter, Ananda means happiness. The happiness which you derive by manipulating matter, by experiencing matter is called Jad Ananda. Then above Jadananda or material sense gratification is the Ananda of emancipation, spiritual emancipation, liberation, mukti, moksha, or merging into the impersonal absolute Brahman. So that kind of pleasure is unlimitedly superior than Jadananda. That pleasure is called as Brahmananda. Brahmananda means the happiness, the pleasure of merging into the impersonal absolute. So it is, say, the Rupa Goswami compares that if you take even a great ocean of material happiness, that great ocean of material happiness also will not be comparable to even one drop of Brahmananda, which means the happiness of merging into the impersonal absolute light. Even one drop of Brahmananda is much more greater than the ocean of material happiness. But then our Rupa Goswami says, that above Brahmananda is the happiness of devotional service, which is called Bhaktyananda, the Ananda of Bhakti. And it says that even if you bring millions and millions and millions of oceans of Brahmananda, that cannot even compare to a fraction of a drop of the pleasure of Bhaktyananda, which means the pleasure derived in devotional service. So even one of the smallest, tiniest fraction of bhakti or the pleasure derived in bhakti is far superior, cannot be compared to millions and millions of oceans of Brahmananda, the happiness of merging into impersonal absolute. What to speak about the temporary so-called material pleasures of this world. And therefore Prabhupada is writing here in this paragraph that it is beyond, currently, it is impossible for us to fully understand the infinite happiness relished in bhakti. We, at our currently conditioned state, we cannot, with our 250 gram of gray matter, we cannot fathom what is the infinite happiness relished in bhakti, because it is just outside the realm of anything we are experiencing in our finite existence, in our limited experience. Therefore, now somebody will say, Prabhuji, but if I cannot understand only what is bhakti rasa, if you are saying this is so great and I will not be able to ever understand it, then how will I practice bhakti? Because I only experience the mundane rasa, so I will keep doing sense gratification in this world. I will never be able to do bhakti. And therefore, although we don't have any experience of bhakti rasa currently, which is very, very high, but Srila Prabhupada is doing one very simple job for us, making our job very simple. He is trying to give us a glimpse of bhakti rasa, not full experience of bhakti rasa, but at least some glimpse by comparing it to mundane rasa. Because mundane rasa is something which we all have experienced in this world, which we all are experiencing currently, which mundane rasa means the pleasure of sense gratification, that day in and day out we are experiencing. So by comparing it with it, we can get at least some understanding of what is bhakti rasa, how it would be, and then we will be able to go ahead and practice it. Why we are comparing with mundane rasa, that is also very important, because see, the bhakti rasa actually exists in the spiritual world, and in the spiritual world all living entities are actually experiencing bhakti rasa, and in the material world all living entities are experiencing mundane rasa. So mundane rasa is a perverted reflection of bhakti rasa. It is diametrically opposite. Just like you have seen this reflection of a tree in the river, na? We give example in our DVAS 5 session that the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So currently we don't have experience the bhakti rasa. So at least by studying the reflection, we will be able to understand what is reality. It's not fully understand, at least some idea we can get what is reality. So to a degree we understand mundane rasa, to that degree we will be able to appreciate what is bhakti rasa. So let us move forward and discuss, what is mundane rasa exactly is. Correct? Yeah. So now here you will find mundane rasa. Now we are going into the mundane rasa. So here you will find that mundane rasa can be understood by analyzing its two characteristics. Now, to understand mundane rasa, there are two characteristics of mundane rasa. First one is called as bhoga tyaga, or the position of oscillation between enjoyment and renunciation. I will explain it, don't worry. And the second one is called as chapala sukh. Chapala sukh is like chappal sukh only. Chapal and chappal, there's not much antar. Chappal sukhi hai wo, which means flickering duration of happiness or short-lived pleasure. So these two, bhog tyag and chapal sukh, are the two characteristics of mundane rasa. Now let us discuss each of them one by one. What are they, and so see, bhog and tyag, very simple understanding. They are saying position of oscillation between enjoyment and renunciation, which means what? In bhog and tyag, what happens now, my dear friend? when we go for experiencing mundane rasa or sense gratification in this world, you will find that after some time we become satiated or full, and then the same object stop giving us pleasure anymore. Take the example for chewing gum. Okay, not chewing gum is not the example for that. Take the example for a man working in a company. So suppose somebody is working in a company. So somebody goes to a company, say he's a manager, or he's in a project team. So he's very enthusiastic to work. He wants to use his talents and skills and all kind of things to work nicely for the company. So he's working and he's deriving some relish because he know at the end of the month salary is going to come. That is the rasa which he's getting, and he also knows that with this income I'll purchase sari for the wife, jewelry for her, or for children I will purchase this or that. So some pleasure is there for because of which he is working. Or I will. So there's some motivation factor he is working. But then after some time you will find that working, he will become bored. And then after being bored, then he want to go to some trip, some outstation. So he will go to Shimla or Himalaya or Himachal or have a change. People say, "Na, let's have a change, yaar." People say, "Na, hey, come on, yaar, chill, yaar. Let's go for a change." So you will find this kind of words people use a lot in this world. Change, let's chill, change, and all this kind. Why they talk this kind of words? Because in material activities, mundane rasa, the same activity cannot give you a constant supply of pleasure, a constant supply of happiness, a constant supply of taste, a constant supply of pleasure. It cannot give. You find that after some time, you'll find that after some time the activities don't give pleasure, so people need for a change, and then they go for a change. So they will go to some house station, some Shimla kind of place, some hill station, and there they will spend the weekend. They will play, they will take bath in the swimming pool in the rains, and then they will eat in the hotels, and they will go around valleys. They will breathe the fresh air. They'll go to farmhouses, farm communities. And after spending 2-3 days there, then they say, "Oh, bore ho gaye. Chalo, back to Hyderabad chalte hain. Back to company. Come on, yaar, what's going on the project? Come on, tell me when are the meetings? How much is the work done? Let's roll in, my dear friends. Let's get back. And then again people will get into work and then work. And after some time, keep it aside. Let's go for a change. One new restaurant is opened in Hyderabad. Acha, which one is this? Chutneys. Really? Which kind of chutney they provide? Oh, all kind of chutneys. Or mainland China. Or La Land. I don't know. These are the someone which I saw while going on the road. So, point is that, what I'm trying to say, my dear friends, that in the material activities, in mundane rasa, bhog and tyag, this characteristic of bhog and tyag will not give, it's like this kind of oscillation. You enjoy for some time, then you will become, frustrated with it. Then you want to say, enough, tyag, abhi chodo bhog ko, abhi mujhe thoda relax hone do. Tyag. And then after some time, tyag will also start appearing boring. अरे क्या यार बहुत त्याग हो गया, बोर हो त्याग से. अभी again I want to go to भोग. Then भोग. सबको भोग लगाऊंगा मैं. And then after भोग, अरे I become frustrated. Again त्याग. Like another example, say sometimes you come for weekly program in the center or some festival, Janmashtami or something, not Janmashtami, some festival where you, nice prasadam is there, there are puris, there are masala puris, there's paneer sabji, there's podina biryani, and pulao in our Gita Life Kadi, and there's this condensed rabdi, you know, our Gita Life Menu feast. I know you all may be missing it since long. So all the feast items are there. And you know, after the program went very late, also 9:30 and 9:30, you are so hungry and you ate and ate and ate and ate. And our devotees, you know, Gita devotee, as you know, they serve a lot. So they are serving you, Prabhu, please take one more. Prabhu, please take one more, Prabhu. Prabhu, you have not eaten anything. And they filled their full glass of with firni. And you know, and you are not able to eat it. You are thinking, should I throw it as prasadam? I should not throw it. I cannot eat it also. What to do? And you know, Prabhuji is speaking something I don't know. It's going over the head. So then, you know, you ate so much that particular day that, you know, when you come home, your stomach is so full and, you know, you are feeling tight, and next day morning your stomach ache. And then you decide, oh, next time I'm not going for weekly program only next time. You may say like that. Or you may say, I'm not going to eat next time so much. I renounce feast. I have done त्याग. मैं feast को त्याग देता हूँ. You may say like this. And the next week you come in the weekly program, although you have come with the mind that I'll not eat feast, I'll only eat khichdi with Proji eats. I'll go to Proji's room. Proji, you eat khichdi, I heard. I'll also eat khichdi with you. But then, you know, after the weekly program, Ha Prasade, Govinde, and one by one buckets are coming. And all the feast items are coming. And then the mind is saying, twing. Maybe last time, next week onwards, we will not eat. And then again person eats. And then he's not controlled, again he will overeat. So point is that, you know, when you do bhog, sometimes you become so full with bhog, or that you become so frustrated at, oh, I don't want it. And then you, for some time, you don't want to enjoy. But after some time, what happens? Again, you want to enjoy. So this situation of enjoyment, renunciation, enjoyment, renunciation. Enjoyment, renunciation is one of the characteristics of mundane rasa, which means your enjoyment cannot be constant, cannot be continuous. You become frustrated after some time. This is the first thing. And the second, we'll give more examples also. And the second type of enjoyment, which second characteristic of mundane rasa is chapal sukh, which is flickering duration of happiness or short-lived pleasures. So short-lived pleasures, which I was giving the example of chewing gum. So chewing gum, you know, when it is very new, you smell it. I don't know what the new ones can get. I would not you see, it's very new in the beginning, fragrance, and you chew it, taste is also there. But then after some time, the taste goes away. So the pleasure also goes away. Or, you know, in your childhood, you might have seen this, you might have purchased new rubbers. So when you purchase a new rubber means this eraser, na? So pink color rubber, different cartoon creature rubber used to come, and you take out, you smell nice khushbu is there. You don't want to use it also, although the rubber you're supposed to use it, but you don't use it. Or when you have purchased your new cycle, you don't remove the covers also for many months. You know, you let the plastic remain there. You know, or when you purchase a new bike, you don't remove the seat covers and you polish it, and you know, dekhte na the chaka chak, is it not? Or your new cell phones, anything new, you know, you try to keep it in a very nice way. But after what happens after some time, you keep using it for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. After some time, you will find that, अरे यार ठीक है, अभी नया कवर है, वो है नहीं है, अभी ऑफिस जाना है. To go to office, to go to school, you start using, you become used to it. So the thing which is very new in the beginning stop giving you pleasure. The pleasure is very short-lived. Or like you see in a marriage relationship also, you know, when before marriage, you know, people are talking on SMS and chat and WhatsApp, Telegram, and you know, there are talks with special packages after 11 o'clock, free talk, Geo to Geo. Oh, we both will Geo, you know, Geo to Geo. And lot of talk till night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. And then, you know, marriage happens, all that big pomp and show. Then they go for honeymoon, come back. And then again life begins. Those who don't experience, please ask those who are married already. They can tell you much more practically. And then, yeah, wife is there, she's doing her job, you are busy with your things. And life is now more responsibility. You have to earn livelihood, you have to manage home, wife, children, electricity bill, rent bill, current bill, this bill, that bill, all bill, which increase your bill of pill and get ill. It may be there somewhat, may not be completely gone, but it is not there as it was in the beginning, before marriage. That kind of excitement is not there. I heard one joke from one of our devotees. He heard from Gaur Gopalpur's lecture, so he was sharing with me. I don't hear Gaur Gopalpur's lecture for outsiders people, but he was sharing. One wife. So she went to beauty parlor, and she came back home after all the beauty things. And then, because she has spent a lot of money in beauty parlor, so she asked the husband, how Mataji, they ask, कैसी लग रही हूँ? तो husband बोला, क्या हुआ? Hey, मैं ब्यूटी पार्लर गई थी, कैसी लग रही हूँ? And husband replied, बंद था क्या? Was it closed? Which means what? That husband could not find any new thing in the wife's beauty. Although she might be thinking that, she is appearing more attractive. But not like. And that's what the reason, even after marriage, people look for, different women, those who are, people get into extramarital affairs, or, they look for other. So point is that chapal sukh means the pleasure derived from sense gratification is chapal, is flickering. It's not full. And it is bhog and tyag also. Like bhog and tyag, one more example from family life only I can give. Like, husband and wife, they're living together, and, they are serving each other, and a lot of things are happening. And then, when people live together, there are fights, and now some misunderstanding, confusion. So she is saying something, and he's saying something, and she's saying something. And now fight became more and more. Both are arguing, and they decided, enough is enough. Not talk to you. Get lost. And wife goes to her room, husband goes to another room. They're not talking to each other. Next day morning, wife is only cooking the food and keeping on the table. And she's not speaking to the husband. Husband is also coming, taking bath, getting ready, eating the breakfast, and going to office, not talking. So both are not talking to each other. So अभी त्याग हो गया, त्याग चल रहा है अभी. Because पहले भोग बहुत हो गया था ना, तो अभी त्याग हो रहा है. But then after 1-2 weeks will pass, and then they will start thinking, अरे यार कब तक चलेगा ऐसा, है ना? कुछ तो बोलना ही पड़ेगा ना. ठीक है, तो कुछ तो बोलेंगे. Then one of them will try to start some talk. One of them will try. So point is that it's like damn if you do, damn if you don't. This is material world. तुम करो तो भी पछताओ, नहीं करो तो भी पछताओ. Like that. So like one devotee, he came in our class, and one Gaur Krishna Maharaj is giving class in Pune. So he came, he was telling in Hindi, Maharaj, क्या करें, ये संसार है, अरे रहा भी नहीं जाता और छोड़ा भी नहीं जाता. Like that he was. Understood? Maharaj, what to do this संसार, अरे रहा भी नहीं जाता, रहने में इतना कष्ट उठाना पड़ता है, ये करो वो करो, इनसे बात उनसे बात, so much tolerate we have to do, रहा भी नहीं जाता, और अगर छोड़ने का प्रयास करें तो छोड़ा भी नहीं जाता. क्या करें तो क्या करें. महाराज बताया, हाँ यही तो है मुंडेन रसा. So my dear friends, till the time we will remain on this platform of mundane rasana, we actually, frankly speaking, none of us sitting here, we have experience of what is real happiness. What we are experiencing on the name of happiness in this world is this bhog and tyag and this chapal sukh only. We are not experiencing real happiness. And that is why we are always in search of happiness. Always we are in search. Our search is never ending. We are thinking this job will make me happy. This India is useless place. Let me go to US. This country will make me happy. This friend is useless. Let me make some more friends. They will make me happy. This food is useless. Let me take some more different kind of foods. That every time people in a search, because they are only experiencing the experience that they are having in their life is bhog tyag and chapala sukh. They are not experiencing anything higher like that. So now here comes a question: why mundane rasa cannot satisfy me completely? So because Bhagavatam gives the answer to it. What's the answer? Answer is this verse from 1.2.6. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshje ahetu kiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. Yeah. Somebody can read a translation, please. Somebody who has not read till now.
The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
Yes, my dear friend, please see the two highlighted words here. What are two highlighted words here? Yes?
Unmotivated, uninterrupted.
Unmotivated and uninterrupted. Why these two words are highlighted here? Because, my dear friends, in all our experiences of mundane rasa means mundane relationship through which we derive mundane rasa. Why we are not getting fully satisfied, fully happy, completely satisfy the self? Because in all these relationships which we experience in the material world, these two characteristics are missing. Practically every single relationship in this material world is motivated, including your parents' relationship. And even if you say in some cases parents' relationship may be completely unmotivated, then it is not uninterrupted, which means it gets interrupted because of various reasons. So because in any mundane relationship, in any relationship of this material world, whatever it may be, because these two characteristics are not fulfilled of unmotivated and uninterrupted, it cannot satisfy the self fully. One cannot experience real pleasure, real rasa, real mellow, real taste. And one will keep experiencing that mundane rasa, which is temporary, flickering, short-lived, oscillating between enjoyment and renunciation. That is the point. Yeah. So that's the point. So very quickly, I will just show you. Well, next I will take 5 more minutes and will show you that what are this mundane rasa and how people are experiencing. I gave you some examples, but this slide will make it even more clear. See here, many things so I will go a little fast because you know many things already. So as I told, everybody is searching for happiness. Now, in happiness, you see there are different levels of happiness. Going for beginning, there's physical, there's mental, there's intellectual, and highest is spiritual. So mundane rasa is only the first three: physical, mental, intellectual. And you will see the examples of each of them. Like see the example of physical. So physical examples of mundane rasa is like eating different kind of things. Like here you are seeing some photos, cakes, pastries. Seeing this brings some pleasure in our mouth. कुछ तो पानी आता है मुंह में. But this is again, please apply for each of this mundane rasana. Please apply the two characteristics. Bhog tyag. Suppose how many cups of coffee you can drink, or how many cups of chocolate juice you can drink, how many cups of ice cream you can eat. Material enjoyment is always limited by how much and how long. These two questions always remember: how much and how long can you enjoy physical senses? Even the pleasure of sex life. How much sex a man can do? In a day, man can do only 2 or 3 times. After that, he will get exhausted, and after some time, he will get completely fed up with it. So physical pleasure, may it be eating, may it be sex pleasure, they are all very, very temporary. They don't satisfy after some time. And chapala sukh. When if you eat more than you want to take, then some there is a churn to digest it. Similarly, mental pleasure. See, mental pleasure is more subtle. Pleasure which people derive, in music, in arts, in poetry. See this boy singing some love poetry for this girl. तेरे लिए जमीन से तारे तोड़ लाऊं, जमीन से तारे नहीं, तारे आसमान में टूटते, बट ही सिंगिंग सम काइंड ऑफ पोएट्री, la la la, ooh. People are hearing music. Sometimes people like to hear ghazals. Some people like to hear rock music. Tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock. Some people like to hear, according to their taste. Some people are very fond of, some nice poetry, some nice antique items. Like, in my home, I saw one, my father purchased one picture. So what is that picture you see now? Now the modern art. What is there in that? Nobody can understand. Modern art. It looks like, a dog has dipped his tail inside a color box and is randomly painted on the canvas like this. And that sells in millions of dollars. And people call it modern art. Hare, at least if you put some pictures of Radha, Krishna, Sita, Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, that is still understandable. You have seen what I'm talking about. Nobody can figure out what is it. And people try to study. Basically, what they're deriving some mental pleasure. So it may be music, it may be arts, poetry, sports. These are all mental, and mental things are more subtle. This means for mental pleasure, you can even give up your physical pleasure. Like suppose you are watching a movie and the climax scene is going on. Who is the villain? That is going to be revealed. And at that time, somebody brings your favorite samosa. I say, Prabhu, please take samosa. I say, Arey, ruko yaar. Keep the samosa aside. Climax is going on. Samosa baad mein. Hai ki nahi? So when your mind is absorbed in a mental pleasure, you can even reject the samosa, which is physical pleasure. So mental pleasure are more. That's why, people when they get into so-called love, this mental one, girlfriend, boyfriend love, they stop eating, they stop sleeping. They say, mujhe neend na aaye. I'm not getting sleep. I'm not getting dreams. They say like that, I'm not getting sleep only. Like this, what is happening? I'm not able to eat. Kya ho raha hai mujhe? And they write songs, मेरा चैन उड़ गया, पता नहीं क्या उड़ गया. People write this kind of songs. Basically, what is happening? They're experiencing a kind of mental pleasure, because of which their normal functionings of physical pleasure has gone deranged or astray. So they physically they are not able to function properly, and they're thinking they're experiencing something high. Like that. And higher than this mental pleasure is the intellectual pleasure. This pleasure is the pleasure of the techie guys. Techie guys. The famous word which is Kodanandas. The Kodanandas comes in this category. They are always, like people, when they get into chess, like example is given of chess. When they play chess, my God, they can forget the world. Just that one square, their whole world. What is, to make one step, they will sit hours. Or people when they code in companies, or they fight this exam, one big exam, AII, FMSS, I don't know what is the exact, but some big letter word, AII, something, that contest, coding contest. People feel great pride. People get into it, become Kodanandas, intellectual pleasure. They forget the world. People like Einstein, he got married. But after married, he never knew what is. He used to go in laboratory and he goes to absorb in laboratory so much that, the tiffin used to come, he used to eat, but he never bothered, who is sending the tiffin. He forgot also that he's a wife at home. One boy was saying in one of the lectures to Aishampu that, Prabhuji, when I get into laboratory and to perform the experiments, Prabhuji, I get into, I forget eating, I forget sleeping, I forget sex life, I forget everything. I throw the whole thing into dustbin. I just become completely absorbed in the laboratory. You told, well, that is very nice. Only thing, you become a rat in the same laboratory. Because you are intellectually absorbed, my dear friend. So, my dear friend, you see, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the senses are greater than the gross matter, and then the mind is greater than the senses, and intelligence is greater than the mind. But the soul is greater than intelligence and the ego also. So, intellectual pleasure is definitely higher than mental. So that's why people, who are absorbed, who are more technical in their outlook, who are more rational, who try to, go more into details of technical information. They can even surpass mental pleasures also. They don't become emotional very easily. They try to analyze everything. They try to judge everything from all different angles, and in that way they can go on and on and on like that. They like debating, they like analysis, they like philosophy, they like to उसको पूरा बाल की खाल निकालना बोलते हैं हिंदी में, बाल की खाल निकालना, उनको मजा आता है इस चीज में. But basically what they are trying to do is they are on an intellectual platform, intellectual pleasure. And higher than the intellectual pleasure is the egoistic pleasure, my dear friend. What is egoistic pleasure? Egoistic pleasure means the pleasure of accomplishments, the pleasure of success, the pleasure of self-esteem. Yes, I did it, I wanted it, and I achieved it. I was there. I wanted it. So that is even high. The pleasure of accomplishment. So that's why this politicians, they get the egoistic pleasure because they have pleasure in control, in power, in prestige, in control. वो बहुत सटल नेचर का होता है, ईगो के लेवल पे होता है, और वो इंटेलेक्चुअल की भी ऊपर होता है. ईगोइस्टिक प्लेजर में इतना रस आता है ना, इतना रस आता है ना, इतना रस आता है ना, अरे व्यक्ति सब कुछ छोड़ सकता है दुनिया का ईगोइस्टिक प्लेजर के लिए. Like that, ऐसा होता है ईगोइस्टिक प्लेजर. But my dear friends, these all either physical, mental, intellectual, or egoistic, these all are nothing but different platforms of mundane rasa only. They all are mundane rasa because they all have these two characteristics. They cannot give, although they're comparatively among them, they may have superlative degree, but they cannot give the pleasure which we are looking for. That pleasure which we are looking for can only come in spiritual pleasure, which is connection to our own self, our own spirit. So praying, study of Shastra, connection to God, chanting. Currently, we are doing the spiritual activities, but because we are doing it with a material outlook or in an imperfect way, that is why it may not give a person that amount of pleasure with the person. But then, what is the proof that the spiritual pleasure is the highest pleasure? Because you see, my dear friends, have you ever find a person in this world that, people in the West, when especially in the management field, when they were researching different management structures, so they studied the Indian Gurukula system, where they studied that the disciples of a particular guru, especially the monks living in the ashram, they are completely dedicated to the guru selflessly. They are not taking a single penny for themselves. They have no selfish interest, but they are wholesale dedicated to the service of guru. So they came to India and they started studying this Indian Gurukul system, and they wanted to implement the same in their management systems, thinking that how nice it will be if all our employees can become dedicated like this disciples to a guru. We don't have to pay them any salary, not even a single money, and they will give their whole life for the company. So Guruji in the Gurukula told, sir, that is not possible, because such a thing is only possible on a spiritual platform, not possible on the mundane platform. In the mundane platform, people, they have give and take relationship. They only work. So as long as the company is paying money, people will work. As soon as the company will stop paying the money, people will not pay the work. So how we can understand the spiritual pleasure, highest pleasure? Because people who are spiritually minded, or who are spiritually oriented, or spiritual in nature, or those are divine people, they work with utmost selfless spirit, or they dedicate with a selfless spirit in their life. Until and unless, my dear friend, just think about it. Just think about it, that, until and unless they are experiencing a very high degree of pleasure, which is beyond physical, mental, intellectual, and egoistic, how they will be able to become, leave everything of this world. See, you can just see one, say for example, the brahmacharis in our movement. They have left everything what the whole world is looking for. Everybody in this world is looking for opposite sex. Brahmacharis, they have given up the opposite sex. Everybody is looking for money. Brahmacharis don't get any salary. There's no money for them. And what else? Everybody looking for comfort, facilities. You know, ब्रह्मचारी को क्या चाहिए? और थोड़ा उसको प्रसाद मिल जाए, थोड़ा पेट में डालने के लिए, एक 6x3 का जगह मिल जाए, थोड़ा लेटने के लिए, है ना, और हो गया उसका काम. और दुनिया में उसको कुछ नहीं चाहिए. सिंपल कपड़ा यही पहनता रहता है वो. ऐसा नहीं कि उसको कुछ उसका ज्यादा प्रचार करेगा तो उसका कपड़ा का कलर चेंज हो जाएगा, और उसको जीन्स टी शर्ट हो जाएगा, हेयर स्टाइल चेंज हो जाएगा. Nothing is going to change. So how, just think for a moment, how a person is able to give up everything with the whole world is looking for. Now, even this I'm telling on the physical platform. See from the mental platform. Now, in the mental platform, people watch TV. Devotees don't watch TV. People play mobile games. Devotees don't play mobile games. Whatever mental pleasure and thing, people hear this, sad songs, cinema songs, this song, that song. Devotees don't hear it. Devotees have given completely up all the mental activities of mental pleasure. Devotees don't watch movies. So all the mental activities, devotees don't have girlfriends. They don't chat with Matajis on phone. Haribol. They don't do like this. They have given up all mental pleasure. Intellectual pleasure, devotees don't unnecessarily get into, intellectual stuff in terms of, they don't want to waste their time with, forget about chess and all kind of things. Even scriptures which are more intellectually inclined, unless it's there for their service, they don't want to unnecessarily get into it if the guru's permission is not there. So for them, how they will be able to do it until unless they are experiencing a very higher degree of pleasure, my dear friends. And egoistic pleasure, what is the accomplishment of a brahmachari or any devotee? For a devotee, the only accomplishment is to satisfy his guru. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. He is only living for the satisfaction of the spiritual master, for the satisfaction of Krishna. That is the only pleasure in his life. So, my dear friend, just try to understand that until unless the spiritual pleasure, the highest pleasure, how will a devotee be able to give up all the so-called other pleasures of this world? That is why in the scriptures there is one verse which says, Ramante yogino anante satyananda chidatmani iti rama padenashu param brahma bhidhiyate. This verse. And what this verse means, what this verse says, Ramante yogino anante. They're living is anante. Is anante means it's very, very high, it's very, very unlimited. Ramante yogino anante. That the yogis, the devotees, the transcendentalists, they enjoy a very high degree of pleasure. Ramante, वो रमण करते हैं, वो enjoy करते हैं. क्या enjoy करते हैं? Anant, anant pleasure. And which kind of pleasure? Satyananda. Satya Ananda. This is a real pleasure, true pleasure. Chidatmani. Iti Rama padenashu param brahma vidhiyate. Like this. So a yogi or a devotee is called as a connoisseur of pleasure. Connoisseur of pleasure means, see, the word connoisseur means the expert in a particular field. Like for example, when you say connoisseur of art, this means the person is very expert in art. He knows how to derive the best juice out of various type of arts. Similarly, connoisseur of food, which means the person is very expert in analyzing different kind of foods and he experiences the best foods. Similarly, connoisseur of pleasure means the person who is a very expert in analyzing different types of pleasures and he is only for the highest pleasure. So yogi or a devotee or a transcendental is called a connoisseur of pleasure. Ramante yogino anante. Or as our Rishabh Dev says in the Bhagavatam 5th canto, 5th chapter, shloka number 1. What is the shloka? Oh, that's not. Vid bhujam ye. You have heard the shloka? I'm just forgetting the verse. Brahma Saukyam to Anantam at the end is, like that. So, in this Brahma Saukyam means spiritual happiness. So, that spiritual happiness is the highest happiness which we are having. So, now it's already time, 7:30. So, I would like to end here and take some questions in case you have. But what we discussed today or what we understood today is that, this, so we are discussing the third reason why we need to practice bhakti, my dear friends. We need to practice bhakti. So we discussed today by studying the concept of rasa. I explained to you rasa means juice or mellow. Mellow specifically means the taste contained in the juice, and the rasa is compared to relationships. Just like there are different types of fruits, there are different types of relationships, and the particular taste which we experience in a fruit is the motivating factor for us to eat that fruit. Similarly, the taste we experience in a relationship is the motivating factor for us to go into that relationship. And why relationship? Because all activities are centered relationships, and relationships or rasa can be of two types: mundane rasa and rasa, or mundane relationship or bhakti relationship. Bhakti relationship is with Krishna, mundane relationship is with the people of this world. So mundane relationship or mundane rasa has two characteristics: bhoga and tyaga, which means the position of oscillation between enjoyment and renunciation, and the position of, and uh, second characteristic is chapala sukh, which is flickering happiness. And then we discussed these two characteristics by describing you some examples. So we will continue this mundane rasa in the next session more, because we have to completely analyze this mundane rasa to appreciate bhakti rasa. But for today, we can understand this principle, that why we want to practice bhakti, because we want to experience bhakti rasa, which is the spiritual happiness, the spiritual pleasure which we are discussing here. And because spiritual happiness, spiritual or rasa or bhakti rasa we experience in relation to devotional service to Krishna, and devotional service is called bhakti, and therefore we want to practice bhakti. So because we want to experience this bhakti rasa, which is the highest, which is above all physical, mental, emotional, intellectual, egoistic pleasures, bhakti rasa, that is why we want to practice bhakti, right? Like that. So this is what we discuss, and in the next sessions we'll continue it more. So I'd like to end here, and in case somebody has some questions, we can take for 5 minutes, and otherwise I'll just go to
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
We are not able to hear you, Prabhu.
We are not able to hear you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Shall I put my question? You're muted. Yeah. We are not able to hear you, Prabhu.
Still not able to hear you. No, Prabhu.
Rajesh, mute for 5 minutes. Not able to hear, Prabhu. Not able to hear, Prabhu. Not able to hear. Not able to hear you, Prabhu.
आएगा.
No, Prabhu is asking whether he's audible.
No Guruji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Now we are able to hear you.
Okay. Anyway, some problem came. Yes, Prabhu, please tell me.
Prabhu, I have a question here. Like, generally, people do not take up spiritual life because after having experienced some spiritual bliss or spiritual happiness, they don't like to go back to their material thing, or sometimes they become incapable of doing their regular occupational duty, and they look,
Oh,
become
just a minute, Santosh, just a minute.
Yeah.
You speak now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Continue.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. In daily practical world, why many people, or in fact, we devotees also don't like to, or be reluctant to take up Krishna consciousness or spiritual thing, is that after having experienced spirituality, after having experienced that spiritual bliss by associating with devotees or reading Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and going through this process, we or to say that I don't get the stamina to do the material activities very well as we do before, like before being in the spiritual experience. Then how to come out of this situation, but practically we will have to deal with any materialistic activities. We will have to be efficient at work, and be competent as well, to move forward in life. Then how to get out of this situation, or be in a proper manner.
Yeah. See, some devotee who is practicing devotional service and he's getting distaste for his other activities of life like job and other things. That is natural, because if you are experiencing even a glimpse, even a fraction of that bhakti rasa in devotional service, that spiritual happiness, the taste is so great that other taste which you are deriving before will become fika, will become tasteless. So it's very natural that you will not feel much enthusiasm for activities like job and other things. So from a spiritual point of view, that is a very good sign. That is a sign of advancement that you are feeling distaste for material activities. But then, because we are living in the material world and we have to make a living, we have to earn our livelihood. So that's why, in our material activities, the principle which we function is doing the needful. Always remember this formula: do the needful. Which means, as devotees now, we should not have a very big plan to become very big in material world, very big, very successful, very famous, this or that, and making a lot of material plans of material advancement. No. If we are really serious devotees, we should be trying to increase our spiritual taste. And because we are living in the material world, we may have a family to maintain. So then whatever is required to, earn a livelihood, to maintain ourselves, to maintain the family, to, keep the body and soul together, whatever amount of work is required, that much we should do. Hmm? And that work also, we can do it as a service to Krishna. We can say, my dear Lord, because I want to practice devotional service, because I want to chant Hare Krishna peacefully, so I will be able to do it if I have, my livelihood, my medical health is safe. And for that, I need some amount of money for which I have to work. So because I need money to earn my livelihood so that I can keep my body and soul together, so that I can keep a good health, so that my mind is peaceful. So for that, I have to do some work. And because I'm doing this work, so that my mind and body is peaceful, so that I can engage in your bhakti. If you do it with this consciousness, then the work is also devotional service. It's karma yoga. Like that. So, three things I told. First thing I told is, it is natural to feel a distaste in material life when you come in bhakti. It is natural. First. Second thing is, although we feel distaste, but we have to work at least to maintain ourselves, because without work nobody can maintain himself. Some work we have to do. But if we choose that work which don't appear to you like work, which means for you work is fun, like that, then you will not feel the burden of the work also, like that. So, but everybody has to work to maintain themselves. So that's why our formula is do the needful, whatever is required to be done, needful you do. And what the meaning of needful is, like, we should not have a lot of plans for material direction, going headlong and making elaborate plans to advance in material life. No, we should make plans to advance in spiritual life. In material life, just to maintain our livelihood, maintain our family, what is bare minimum required, that much, to have good health and good basic amenities of life, that much. And even that, the third thing I told, even that also we can spiritualize it by having the consciousness that Krishna, I am doing this thing so that I have certain basic facilities of life by which I can engage in devotional service. So then even the basic work will become devotional service, and then you will be enthusiastic towards it because it is helping in your bhakti. Okay, Santosh?
Okay, bro. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Who's that? Prabhu, yeah.
Yeah, Prabhuji, when you were telling about this, that brahmacharis and devotees are relishing the pure or bhakti rasa instead of physical, mental, or other rasas. When you were telling that, were you meaning those brahmacharis like who have started or who have been practicing it, for the maybe last 10 years, 5 to 10 years, or were you meaning those sannyasis or who are at a higher stage?
Both.
Both.
Those who are pure devotees, so they are constantly experiencing the bhakti rasa, and that's why they are able to go on and on and on. And even those who are brahmacharis, you see, until unless they experience something, why they will give up the other things of this world, which everybody is looking for. They are all, because in our society, many brahmacharis, they join in the youth, they don't join in the old age. So until unless they are experiencing something, may not be full. See, in the beginning, one of the slides in the session was that in our current existence, in the finite existence, where we will not be able to experience the full bhakti ras. Is it not? But we will be able to understand what is bhakti rasa by comparing it to mundane rasa. And as devotees, we also become, when we are told about the bhakti rasa, when we are shown something that this is a very high thing, then as brahmacharis, we want to attain that thing. So somebody may not be experiencing that pleasure currently. Even a brahmachari may not be, but because his goal is that, so he's not ready to compromise with any amount of small pleasure, because he's looking for a very big pleasure. For example, the students who aim at IIT, so they just want to get into IIT. They don't want to compromise with any other college. So they work hard, they slog hard, they study hard, they go to quotas, they take coachings, they study hard because they want to get into IIT. Although it may be difficult for them, although currently they may not be experiencing the pleasure of being in the IIT, but because IIT is the goal, so they are ready to work hard for it, slog hard for it, and that's called tapasya. Tapodivyam putrakayena satyam shuddhyet yasmat brahma saukyam tu anantam. Because when we do tapasya, by tapasya only we will become purified, and then that purification will bring us the experience of bhakti rasa. So those who are pure devotees, they are already purified, they are experiencing. And the brahmacharis, who may not be experiencing currently, but because they have set their goal as the highest, the bhakti rasa, so they may be undergoing tapasya currently, but they don't mind undergoing that tapasya because the goal is very set. Once my spiritual master was going around the tour of a temple in Bombay, Chowpatty. So one devotee came from behind and asked, Maharaj, and Maharaj stopped and turned behind. And devotee asked, Maharaj, I heard that when you joined as a brahmachari in ISKCON in 1972 in New Vrindavan, You performed a lot of austerities in Maharaj. You used to wake up so early and used to take ice chill bath. And I heard you did a lot of austerities, Maharaj. How could you do so many austerities? And Maharaj told that, if only you know what awaits you, if only you know what's the fruits of all these austerities, awaits you, what Krishna has kept for you in return, then you will not mind undergoing this austerity for a million lives. Like that. Same thing our Rukmini Mata is saying in Krishna book. You can read this chapter, marriage of Krishna and Rukmini, how Krishna kidnapped Rukmini. There, Rukmini is writing a letter, the first love letter of the world. Rukmini Mata is writing to Krishna, where she is saying, "My dear Krishna, I want you to come and kidnap me and marry me. But Krishna, if you feel that I am not qualified to be accepted by you, no problem. I am ready to take millions of births, and I am ready to do tapasya for millions of lifetimes to someday become qualified to be accepted by you." Like that. So even though somebody may not be experiencing bhakti rasa currently fully, but they understand the what do you say, the weightiness of the goal, the loftiness of the goal, and because they want to achieve that, they're ready to compromise or sacrifice any so-called petty pleasures of this world, because no pain, no gain. This principle applies both in material life and spiritual life. In material life also, when you don't take any pain, you cannot succeed. Similarly, spiritual life also, no pain, no gain. If you're not ready to pay the price for this bhakti rasa, because the goal is so high, above physical, mental, intellectual, emotional, egoistic pleasure, the highest pleasure is the bhakti rasa. So do you think you will get it very easily without paying the price? So we have to pay the price of tapasya. We have to do it. And when we do it, people experience. Otherwise, how they will be able to go on and on and on and on? There are so many devotees in ISKCON who are going on and on, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Challenges will come, temptations will come, physical platform, intellectual platform, emotional platform. These all will pose challenges. But one who is very fixed up on the goal, he just remains fixed up. He just go on and on. One last example I'll say for your answer. In Bhagavatam, the example is given of a chakora bird. So the chakora bird is a special bird which never drinks water from any other source. Her only source of water is the raindrop which comes from the sky, called the Swati Bindu. So although there may be many, many reservoirs of water, there may be lakes, ponds, the bird will, and even the bird is very thirsty, the bird will never drink water. The bird looks in the sky when the clouds will come. Sometimes the clouds comes, but they only roar. They don't shower the rains. Sometimes the clouds, they pour the thunderbolt on the head of the chakora bird. No rain, but thunderbolt. Still the chakora bird don't go to any other source of water other than the Swati Bindu, the pure raindrop coming from the sky. That only he will drink. So in devotional service, those who want to take bhakti rasa requires that determination. This we will going to discuss in our future sessions also. That when we discuss how to practice bhakti, there these things will come more elaborately about the determination required for bhakti, what are the qualifications required for bhakti rasa. When we'll discuss who can practice bhakti and how we will practice bhakti, there these things will come more clear. Okay, Prabhu?
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, so I feel that there are no more questions for today. So thank you very much, dear Prabhu, for joining. Atul Prabhu, are you there? Or any devotees?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Shivam Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have one question. So how do we differentiate that what we are feeling at the moment is a mental or intellectual pleasure, or is it a spiritual pleasure? Because sometimes we might be discussing Krishna consciousness philosophy with others, but it could be an intellectual pleasure as well, right? Because we
Okay,
are discussing.
I understood. So you are saying that, if I understood your question, you are saying that, Prabhuji, now it is clear that mundane rasa, bhakti rasa is clear, like mental, intellectual pleasure and bhakti pleasure. But now in the field of bhakti also, we are doing many activities which are related to physical, mental, intellectual in the realm of bhakti.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
is it spiritual or is it mental?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So you see, this will also come again. These all questions are related to how to practice bhakti. And that is going to come. But because you have asked that, you see, so the pleasure which we have to taste is bhakti rasa only. But because currently we are embodied souls, we are in this gross and subtle bodies. So the limbs of bhakti we practice with the medium of this body only, with the medium of this body, mind, intelligence. Correct? So we have to utilize our physical facilities, like how I'll chant Hare Krishna. Until I use my tongue, which is the physical facility, and my ear, I cannot chant Hare Krishna. Correct? So this is physical. Similarly, unless I use my mind to chant, then how I can chant? Same time I absorb my mind in chanting, absorb my mind in hearing some nice kirtan, melodious kirtan. My mind is really happy. And similarly, until I involve my intellect in understanding the philosophy while reading the books, reading the lectures, how am I going to understand our Krishna consciousness? So even in the field of bhakti, our physical, mental, intellectual facilities are involved. But how does bhakti or how does bhakti rasa or how it will give you bhakti rasa? Because the end product you will get by utilizing your mind, intelligence, or physical facilities in relation to Krishna, it will give you the experience you will get. It's not intellectual, mental.
Haribol, you are just checking with Samat Krishna Prabhu on the problem.
Sound is coming now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So I was saying that until we involve our physical, mental, and intellectual facilities in relation to Krishna, how we will practice bhakti. So that's why, see, this is the difference between the process of bhakti and the other processes. In the process of, although we are saying, see, Mayavad is what they say, they say, see, you are using our physical facilities, mental facilities, intellectual facilities, these are mundane rasa. Don't do this, don't use this. You are Brahman, you are Atma. Just think that you are Atma and be happy. So somebody will say, how will I think I am Atma and be happy? That is why those parts of Mayavadis becomes very impractical for the people of Kali Yuga especially. But in the path of bhakti, yes, we are not supposed to use our physical, mental, intellectual facilities for deriving mundane rasa on this mental platform, intellectual platform. But in bhakti, the special prerogative is that we can utilize physical, mental, intellectual, use to all levels of facilities for experiencing bhakti rasa. Because in bhakti, the activity, we don't change the activities, we only change the consciousness from mundane to Krishna. That is the beauty of bhakti. And when we are able to change that consciousness, when we are able to transcend that consciousness from mundane to Krishna, the same activities with your body, mind, intelligence becomes spiritual or bhakti. That is the point. So, do devotees don't eat nice prasadam? When you eat prasadam, which pleasure it is? It is physical pleasure, no? But because it is in relation to Krishna, it is spiritual. Are you able to understand, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Yes.
So that is the difference between bhakti and other. In bhakti, the means and the end, or the means and the goal are same. Activities, but we change the consciousness from mundane to Krishna, and that change of consciousness brings the experience of bhakti rasa. or in other words, it prepares us to experience that Bhakti Rasa in full when we go back to the spiritual world on a spiritual platform. And there's a test also for that. You know what is the test? That if a person is actually experiencing the test is, I was saying the test is that if a person is actually experiencing Bhakti Rasa, then eventually his indulgence with physical, mental, intellectual things will reduce. That's why devotees, as they advance more and more and more and more, they keep coming closer to Bhakti Rasa. Then even they lose taste for opulent and tasty prasadam also. Prasadam is tasty or simple, does not matter to them. Similarly, either the tune of Hare Krishna mantra is very melodious or not melodious, they are not bothered because it is Hare Krishna mantra, that is what. Yeah. So, Prabhu, I think we should end here because my internet connection is very unstable. It's getting finished. I think it's also giving me indication that enough of yours now, you should end. So, we can conclude it. Remaining questions we can take in our book reading sessions when they come. Okay. So, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Joy.
Joy.
We'll meet next Saturday. We have a discussion. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, devotees, for joining. We'll again meet in our book reading session. Srimad Krishna will join. Then remaining questions, if anybody has, we can clarify there. So do attend our book reading sessions regularly. Whether Srimad Krishna Prabhu comes that day or not, but do attend. And morning chanting seminars are not seminar, chanting japa sessions. Devotees who are at home can join on Zoom. Yes, same ID. Okay, we'll meet again every day. Hare Krishna.